I've been in law enforcement for 10 years, and I'm speaking to my peers, other fellow officers, people in any kind of law enforcement position. I've seen officers nationwide enforcing tyrannical orders against the people. I'm seeing people arrested or cited for going to church, for traveling on the roadways, for going surfing, opening their businesses, going to the park with their families, or doing nails out of their own house, using their own house as a place of business, and having undercover agents go there and arrest them.
Shelley Luther, that salon owner who said, look, I got to reopen. I know I can't open right now, but I got to do it because I got to put food on the table. She was held in contempt, or rather, she was issued a cease and desist order. She tore it up famously at a public demonstration. And then in front of the judge says, you want to apologize? She said no.
These so-called leaders and these so-called judges across the country, arresting moms and dads. And of course, she's not the only case. A dad was arrested in Colorado for playing catch with his daughter. A paddleboarder who was paddleboarding alone in the ocean was chased down by police boats in California. Guy in Florida had to be sent to court because he was trying to sell takeout out of his restaurant. This is happening over and over. And these so-called leaders, these so-called judges, they need to take a civics lesson. Okay, these laws will not be respected if they are not respectable laws. People are not dumb. They can understand and they can assess whether a law makes sense, whether it's really based on data and public health. And a lot of these things aren't, right? We've seen a lot of rules being passed that simply don't make sense.
Now, I want to remind you that regardless of where you stand on the coronavirus, we don't have the authority to do those things to people just because a mayor or a governor tells you otherwise. We don't get to violate people's constitutional rights because somebody in our chain of command tells us otherwise.
Why can't you go to a car wash? Why can't a jewelry store open up on Mother's Day a few days before in order to maybe sustain their business? Why can the liquor store be open? And why can I go to a supermarket, but I can't go to a sports store? Why do they expect people to really think that's rationalized behavior? Why do they think I can't walk on the beach or get this, sit on the beach?
We're violating people's rights and taking money from them, or even worse, arresting them and depriving them of their freedom when they are exercising their constitutional rights. Our power and any government official's power is derived from the people, okay? We don't hold power over our citizens.
Americans are sick of it. They have a sense of injustice. They have a sense that these so-called leaders, these so-called judges, they have a sense that they're not actually implementing the law, because these aren't laws, right? These are executive orders. They have a sense that they're not really implementing justice as we understand it as a culture and as a society. We know that they're doing the wrong thing, and we have to call them out for it.
Illegal traffic stops to check for papers? What are you, the Gestapo? Is this 1930s Nazi Germany? You don't get to stop people unless you have reasonable suspicion or probable cause that they have committed a crime. And I know people that have personally been stopped saying, we want to see papers showing that you're essential. Look at what's happened to law enforcement in the last 10 years. Less and less public trust, and more often than not, that is a result of isolated incidents that get blown out of proportion. Well, they're not isolated anymore. They're happening every single day. And that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that these actions are going to wake a sleeping giant, i.e. the American people. I think what is going to happen if this continues is we're going to see bloodshed in the streets, okay? I don't want to see bloodshed in the streets on either side of this coin. I don't want to see fellow officers get injured or killed, and I certainly don't want to see citizens get injured or killed.
So here's their playbook. They want you to stay locked down, all right, and they'll arrest you if you don't abide. They don't want you to have your job anymore. They want to wait for these industries to fail so there's no jobs to go back to, and then they want to act like these benevolent rulers and offer you money. Well, whose money is that? It's your money, and it's especially your kids' money, because one day that has to be paid back, and it's going to be your kids' taxes that have to be raised.
Listen, you need to stand up for what's right. You need to, if you're part of a department or an agency that is asking people or asking their officers or their deputies to impose on people's rights and infringe on their freedoms, you need to step up and say, no, that's not me. That's not what I signed up for, and that's going against my oath. And if that costs you your job, so be it. At least you'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror at night. I've already expressed this to my department. And luckily for me, I come from a department that I feel like my chain of command shares my view, but I don't care what department you're part of or what your chain of command thinks. You don't get to trample on people's liberty. And so, you know, as a special operations veteran, I've fought on the streets of Iraq under the U.S. government's guise of freedom. And I'm telling you what, the American people are going to be, you are going to wake a sleeping giant, and they are going to fight 10 times harder for their freedom on their soil than anything you've ever seen before. And if that's something you're willing to face, then keep trampling on people's rights.